start with them and then you lose them. Be official.
Hello and welcome to a special Endangered Species Day edition of the Aquarium at Home live stream. We are here at a mill in North Georgia on South Chickamauga Creek, which is one of our favorite places to come and do field work. It's very close and close to the aquarium. It's where a very healthy ecosystem, a lot of species you can find here pretty easily. And hopefully today we're going to find some species that have an interesting story that pertains to Endangered Species Day. But first, let's talk to who we've got as our on-screen experts. This is Bernie Kahaya.
Hey guys!
Bernie, I'll let you introduce yourself. What is your title?
You know, I don't know my title. I play with fish at the Tennessee Aquarium Conservation Institute.
Bernie is our manager of science programs at the Tennessee Aquarium Conservation Institute. I will answer for him. And this is Shauna. And Shauna, I cannot remember what your last name is, and I feel terrible for that.
My last name is Fix.
That's right.
Recently changed.
All right. So Shauna, what is your title?
I am the science coordinator at the Tennessee Berm Conservation Institute.
All right, so you have a lot of science experts here today. Let's start with, you all have been doing a little bit of collecting in South Chick Creek before we got this live stream started. So you actually found some things. So let's talk about what you found.
Yeah, so there are a lot of fish that we hope to get here that we get 20, 30, 40 of them every time we come. But we found a couple that we were collecting right before lunch that we usually just see one or two of. And so we put them in a bucket and we got them, and now you guys can check them out in our little glass aquarium, which we call a aquarium, because as in photo aquarium, because you can take great pictures in these little glass aquariums.
All right, so what have we got here?
This handsome devil is a male blue-side darter. Why do you think he's called blue-side?
I don't know.
I think maybe he has blue on his side.
Oh, it's that kind of obvious.
Yes. And his scientific name is kind of fun, Ethiostoma jessiae. And this guy gets on his spawning colors in the spring. Right now, if we had a female, which we did not collect, they're just kind of brownish and yellowish. With all these darters, the males are brightly colored, the females are not, sort of like cardinals. And it's female mate choice. The males have to get the pretty colors to make the females want to spawn with them.
All right, and since this is Endangered Species Day and Bernie is an encyclopedia of all fish facts, do you know what the conservation status of this guy is?
This fish is a common fish. So conservation status would be considered stable.
All right, so you have something else that you recovered, and this is also a really interesting fish, but we'll wait for Shauna to recover said
I'm going to
fish.
throw this guy back in the creek.
All right, so
I'm not throwing.
return. Very, very carefully and calmly and as gently as possible. Return. So while Shauna is working to get our other previously collected species, can you talk a little bit about what makes this particular area so special? And not just this region, but this very specific creek. Why do we come here to do so much work?
So the southeast is really an underwater rainforest. We have an incredible diversity of fishes, mussels, snails, crawdads, aquatic insects, salamanders, turtles. The list goes on and on. And especially in the Mobile Basin, to just the south of us, mostly in Alabama, a little bit of Georgia and Tennessee, the Tennessee River, this is where we're at, and a little further north, and in the Cumberland River, which flows through Nashville. There's over 400 species of fishes in those three rivers. That's almost half the fishes in the U.S. and Canada in just 1.4% of the area. And the South Chickamauga Creek, where we are, we can get up to about 40 species of fish just at this one site, which is incredible because New Mexico only has 40 species of fish that are native to it in the entire state. And here in one creek we have 40 species.
And as I said earlier, we are really not very far at all from the aquarium. I mean, it's a 25-minute drive probably from downtown.
Yep.
But it looks like we've got our other species. So what are we looking at?
We do. So this is a little catfish called a mad tom. That's not a juvenile, that's a full-grown adult. So there's about 20-some catfishes in North America called mad toms, M-A-D-T-O-M-S. And this is as big as they get. This is the mountain mad tom because it lives in uplands. And it has the whiskers right here. And it's got these two fins on the side that have spines on the leading edge. And the skin on those spines have poison cells in them. And if you get stuck in the finger with that, it feels like a bee stung you.
Wow.
And then if I flip them over, there's this cute little belly. It's very pettable. This aquarium leaks a little. Let me get a little more water. Here, buddy, have a drink. So that's his underside. And I think these guys are adorable. Let me flip them over again. If you can get really close in the sun, you can see on the back side of that spine, it's got teeth on it. I don't know if the close-up shows that or not.
Well, I will try. It's a little hard to even see the screen right now, so if I'm missing comments and questions, I am so sorry, but blame the sun, 93 million miles away and still causing problems.
Pesky sun.
But hopefully you're getting a good look at some of those features that Bernie is talking about. And don't neglect to write those questions, because who knows, a cloud may pass over the sun, I might actually be able to see them.
And like all catfishes, those whiskers, they have taste buds on them like you've got on your tongue. So when they're out feeding at night, they actually taste what's out in front of them with those whiskers.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to let him go. See you, Mr. Madcon. All right.
So we talked a bit about the fact that there are so many species here, but what we haven't talked about is why. Why is this area so just full of life and an abundance of life, and even more than that, a diversity of life?
Okay, so there's several reasons. Number one, this whole area, the Cumberland Plateau, the Appalachian Mountains, they're extremely old, 400 million years old. So they've been around a long, long time, and the geology's been stable. Number two, we didn't have glaciers down here. Glaciers completely obliterated the uplands further north in Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, northern Missouri. Number three, it's been wet for millions and millions of years here. You go out west, they have great geology, but it's very dry, and fish and other aquatic animals, they like water. Another reason is we have all, excuse me, it's sliding down. We have all these different geologies. We have the Appalachian Mountains to the east, the Cumberland Plateau just outside of Chattanooga to the west, and then we're in the Ridge and Valley physiographic province. You get over by Nashville, you've got the interior Nashville Basin, the Highland Rim. And so you just have, and then you get over by Memphis, you're on the coastal plain. All these different geologies have different kinds of rivers, different kinds of water chemistry, and different kinds of aquatic animals.
So it's a very special place, not just to live, but especially to work for someone like you and the other members. I feel like I'm neglecting you, Shauna, I'm sorry. But yeah, the other members of the Conservation Institute. This is a really special place to work, and it's really special that we even have a place institute in a place like this.
It is. I just gave a talk yesterday, an international webinar, and I talked about some of the little jewels that we've got around here, some threatened and endangered species. And when you put a dot where Chattanooga is, it's dead center in the heart of the aquatic biodiversity in the southeast. So there is no better place to live to study this amazing underwater rainforest.
All right, now I'm going to take just a moment, a break from Bernie, so I can look through some of these comments. Maybe if I can get in the shade, I can see a little bit better. Looks like Nikki Nation says, "Oh my word, I need one of those fish masks. So great." What species is on that mask? It looks like it might be a trout of some sort.
It is a trout of some kind. I'm not sure what the species is, but it is a trout from North America.
All right, so we do have well, actually quite a few comments about your mask. So your mask is internet famous today, Bernie. So Sarah Sweat, who is a completely anonymous person with no relation whatsoever to the Conservation Institute, would like to know, what is Dr. Bernie's favorite fish and what is Shauna's favorite fish? So you're not going to escape being on camera the entire time, Shauna. But let's start with you. Shauna, what is your favorite fish?
My favorite fish is actually the laurel dace. They are native to the Cumberland Plateau. We can find them about an hour north of Chattanooga. I've been grateful to be able to study this fish for the entire 5.5 years that I've been employed here at the aquarium. They're beautiful. They get reds and golds and blacks, and they're super rare. We can only find them in 2 streams now. So it's a fish that I've had the privilege to try and save my time here in Chattanooga.
What an excellent choice for Endangered Species Day, because not only are they endangered, they're one of the most imperiled in this country, or in this continent, right?
Correct, yeah. They're definitely one of the most imperiled fish, freshwater fish in the U.S.
They are exceptionally beautiful fish, too. As you mentioned, their colors are just, they're almost, they look like they've been covered with a highlighter or something when they're in full color.
Yes.
So
yeah, they've got these big gold bars down their sides. So yeah, it's like you took a gold highlighter and just colored it in, and then colored in their bellies with red. They're absolutely wonderful, and I'm just so excited to get to work with them and try and save them, because that's what my job is all about.
An excellent choice. Endangered Species Day live stream approved. Bernie, what is your favorite fish?
My favorite fish are all the threatened and endangered species of fishes and cave shrimp that I study, which is over 20 of them.
Okay, well, so Bernie,
Pick one.
a natural follow-up to that then, I'm not going to ask you to pick one.
I
but
cannot pick one. That's like asking, who's my favorite child? I can't do it.
You can say my children, that's okay. But let's go through and just quickly summarize that list. If you can rattle them off without notes.
I'll talk about some families. The sturgeon family, my favorite is the Alabama sturgeon, a sturgeon that lives in the Alabama River that's on the verge of extinction. I love the Alabama cave fish. No eyes, no color, lives in a single cave outside of Florence, Alabama. I love the Snail Darter. It was one of the first animals listed under the Endangered Species Act back in the mid-1970s. And they live right here. And hopefully, fingers crossed, arms crossed, everything crossed, we'll get one today. And then there are a bunch of minnows and darters and top minnows and mad-tom catfishes that are also threatened and endangered that I study. And I love them all.
All right. So shall we get to some seining then?
I want to get some fish. Let's do it.
All right. So for the time being, while Bernie and Shauna are seining, it's probably going to be a little hard for me to interrupt them with questions. And as you can probably see, the current is flowing at a not insubstantial rate. So I don't want to endanger them by having them distracted. But be thinking of some questions to ask. And we'll watch while they do science in the field. This is pretty much what science looks like when you're a fish scientist in the Southeast.
And this is why I'm in this business. This is work.
So what you're going to see is probably a pretty funny, what looks like, Shauna is probably going to be doing what looks like a dance. It is not a dance. What she's doing is...
It's the darter dance.
The darter dance. She is going to be kicking downstream, trying to drive whatever critters we can get to swim into this net, and then we'll pull that net up, and Shauna and Bernie will identify what we catch. Bernie, that looks like it must be, you got to lock your arms, it looks like, to keep that thing pretty stable.
Yeah, luckily I have really long arms. That helps. Hey, we got fish. Let's go to the shore and we'll check them out.
All right.
Got some good ones. Woohoo! All right. Oh my goodness, they're gorgeous.
Is that another mad tom?
It is a sculpin.
A sculpin. Okay.
You
With-
got.
They have giant mouths.
You want to grab the
They
Sculpin?
eat everything. We'll try to.
And I'll grab the Redline Darter. Look at that handsome guy.
Oh wow.
Epiostoma rufilineatum.
I think it's harder for you sometimes to remember the common names of these fish.
Oh, definitely. So the way I identify this guy, the sides kind of look like Indian corn, maize,
Checkerboard.
beads. Yeah, Gila Monster.
So this is a good example for those of you who've never actually seen a darter before, or maybe paid attention to them when you've seen them at the aquarium. This is a really excellent example of people debunking the myth that freshwater fish are brown and drab. They are absolutely not that at all.
They rock.
They are beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
fish. So Redline Darter.
Yep.
All right, Shauna, what did you get?
All right, so this guy's a banded sculpin. They have huge mouths that kind of look like frogs. Their faces do. So they will literally hang out at the bottom under a rock, and they will eat anything and everything that passes by. They are definitely top predators in the stream, outside of your basses and sunfish. But these guys are super cool. They're super aggressive. They have, you can't really see it, but they have huge pectoral fins that stick out.
So when you say pectoral, what part of the body would that
It
be
is-
on?
it's these fins right here, right up, kind of right behind the head.
All right, so if you are not aware of fish anatomy, today is going to be a crash course for those of you who are watching.
Yes. So these guys are definitely one of my favorite, more common fish, just because they're so cool.
Awesome.
And just to show you how common Redline Darters are, there you go. They're
Wow.
having a little party in there.
And that again, that is another good representation of just how well I want to say that it's healthy, but I'll let you say that for me, or tell me that I'm wrong. That this particular stream, this is what seems like a healthy ecosystem should look like.
Yes. There are some impacts from poor agricultural practices, and there is a little bit of urbanization, especially Ringgold, Georgia at the headwaters. But overall, the stream's in pretty good shape. And now these, a lot of times because the snail darter got so much press, we think all darters are rare and endangered, but this is one of the more common darters in the southeast. You can literally collect hundreds of them from one riffle. They're very common.
Now, when you say a riffle, again, for those of you who are watching, some of you probably are younger, or maybe you're watching with young kids. If a word comes up that you're not familiar with, type it down in the comments. I'll be sure to ask Bernie for a layperson definition. But what is a riffle?
Okay, can you turn that camera around towards behind you? That is a pool. A pool is where the water runs kind of slow. It's typically deep, and you have certain kind of fishes that just live in a pool. Then if you look right out here, this is the glide area. This is the area between the pool and the riffle. And then you go down to where the water's bubbling real fast over those rocks. That's the riffle. And then where it gets deeper, just below the riffle, and it's more of a chute of water, that's called a run. So you got pools, glides, riffles, and runs. And you get different kinds of fishes in each of those different kinds of habitats.
All right, so those are good words to pull out at your next cocktail party. Let me look down and see what else we've got here in terms of comments. Looks like Drew Counts previously commented back when we were looking at that Mad Tom. Wow, that's a catfish. Wow, 2 wows. So that...
It's worth at least 2 wows.
Should we add another?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay,
3
so
wows.
3 wows. Someone asks, are we open? The aquarium is still not open, but stay tuned to our social channels and we will make sure that everyone is aware of our plans when we're ready to share those. Okay, Keith Sanford, president and CEO of the aquarium, asks, I'm guessing this is Bernie, where is the fish shirt?
Fish mask.
Okay. Keith, have a word with the people I work for. They require me to wear this in the field. I would rather wear my fish shirts, but I'm not allowed to. So if you can talk to some certain vice presidents and we clear that up, I would have a fish shirt next time.
Drew Counts would like to know, and he doesn't specify who, so this is to both of you. How long have you been working at the aquarium?
I started in 2012, so I've been here 8 years, and it is the best job I've ever had by far.
All right, and Shauna?
I'm one of those cool success stories where an internship turned into a full-time job. So I interned at the aquarium in 2014 and then came back in 2015 to work full-time. I've been here a little over 5 years, I guess.
So that is a good testimonial in favor of applying for an internship if you happen to have interest in doing this kind of work in a region where this kind of work is the best. This is the best place to do this kind of work, or one of the best places. So
the best. The best.
The best.
Capital T, the best.
Let's not be too regionalist. We do have people watching from all over, I would assume, but we can say it's great.
Okay, all right. I'll reel it in a little bit.
All right. Sarah Sweat says Laurel days are awesome, so that's a point in your favorite fish's favor. Micah Jr. says, keep doing great work. I had a class through the University of Alabama with Bernie, and he was awesome.
Well, thank you.
All right. Drew Count says, thank you for all you do. Well, Drew, thank you very much for saying that, although you're not probably saying that to me. I'm assuming that you mean Bernie and Shauna.
Deserve the credit to you, Casey.
Casey, no one would know what we do if it wasn't for you and your whole department, so we salute you.
All right. Well, we'll take the compliment. But Drew, thank you and everyone who's watching for tuning into these live streams. We love the fact that we're able to share the important work that we do and the amazing wildlife with which we share this beautiful part of the country. It is a really special place. And Bernie, I usually ask you this when we're doing stories or we're covering topics like the snail darter and a lot of these fish that we work with, that you work with in particular, happen to be pretty small, and people might wonder, when they think about things like endangered species, they think of the quote, big ticket, charismatic animals, the giant pandas, the orangutans, those sorts of things. And they understand, or maybe they feel naturally they gravitate towards protection of those sorts of species. But why is it important for us to take the time, devote the resources to understanding and safeguarding species like the snail darter and these little fish that maybe don't seem at the off to be as important or as to serve as vital a purpose?
Okay, there's one thing that unites all living animals on the planet and humans. We all need fresh water. And the healthier our fresh water, the healthy we are as humans. The healthier our rivers and streams are, the less money we have to pay to have healthy drinking water. All of these animals are little bricks in the foundation that is our aquatic ecosystem. Everything works together to help clean the water. Every time you lose a species, you're taking a brick out of that foundation for that whole system that keeps everything healthy. Eventually, you lose enough bricks, that foundation collapses. And so every species plays a part in keeping us healthier. This works on land as well as water. That's why we try to keep all of our animals and plants around.
All right. That is an excellent statement for Endangered Species Day, and an excellent place for us to maybe do another seine run. So are you all ready to do more?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do another collection run, and I'm going to look down and see if there are any comments that need to be addressed. For those of you who are watching, thank you so much for taking the time to tune in and for your comments, your shout-outs, your compliments are even more, or well, I welcome them. I liked that I got a little bit of a shout-out from our wonderful scientists there. But let's see, while Bernie and Shauna are out in the middle of the river doing their darter dance again. So Joshua Smith asks, where are you at? So we are in South Chickamauga Creek. We are just over the state line in North Georgia. We're only about 20-25 minutes drive away from downtown Chattanooga and the aquarium, so pretty close to home. But that, as Bernie was saying, this is such a special region. You really don't have to drive very far outside of a city like Chattanooga to get someplace where you can find amazing animals like we've already collected and presumably like we're about to see in this next seine haul.
Oh, we got it. We got one minnow and a different darter.
If you can't hear, he said we have one minnow and a different darter.
Oh.
Lou Everman, who is a frequent commenter and supporter of these live streams, says those darters aren't social distancing. Shame, shame, shame.
Maybe they don't have the funds for masks.
In all seriousness, though, would they be normally found in groups in large quantities, or do they tend to be more individualistic?
Right now in the spring is a spawning season, so they congregate to spawn. And so you find them at their most densest right now.
Okay. And we've used the term darter, but I think one of the great things about darters is that their name kind of gives away a little bit about their natural history. So why are they called darters?
Most darters don't have a swim bladder. You know, when you look at a bass or a brim and they're in an aquarium, they're just sort of floating there. They're really not moving much. They have a little balloon inside of them called a swim bladder that keeps them floating above the bottom. Darters, most of them lack that swim bladder. And so they sink to the bottom, and when they move, they dart around on the bottom, hence the name darters.
Perfect. I love that. That's one of my favorite things about darters. That and their coloration are like my two favorite darter facts.
Okay, and I can't see very well. That wasn't a minnow. That was a little baby bass.
How cool. So what species is this?
That looks like a spotted bass.
So
Micropterus punctulatus.
So how big will this spotted bass be when it's full grown?
They can get, big 4 or 5 pounds. I don't know what the record is. It might be 10 or 11. But they get pretty big. Not as big as largemouth, but they can get pretty big.
Now, would this particular species stay in this stream, or would it find its way down to deeper water eventually?
No, you can find big bass. The bigger bass tend to hang out in the pools, usually around structure like logs. And so in that big log jam up there by the dam, you'd probably be able to find some lunkers.
Still, such a beautiful fish.
Yeah, and I really like this tri-colored tail, yellow, black, and white on the tips.
I really hope for those of you who are watching that the stream quality is good enough to really take in some of these details, because these fish are really beautiful. And I think one of the great things about doing this kind of work is it really highlights just exactly what you're living next to that you just don't see.
Yeah, it is an underwater rainforest, and it is hidden from just about everyone. Unless you put a mask on and go snorkeling, or you get a net and collect like we are, you don't know what's down there. You might be able to catch some bass or some catfish on a hook, but you're not going to collect darters, minnows, mad toms. The only way to see them is get out there and specifically look for them and either snorkel in a stream or collect them with a net.
All right. Now, before I turn to Shauna and find out what she has collected, I want to say thank you to those of you who have donated. Those donations are very much appreciated. Obviously, this is a difficult time. This is a difficult time for all of us, especially institutions that care for animals. The needs of that work continue unabated, despite the fact that the world is a very different and difficult place at the moment. So that money will go towards the very good cause of continuing to make sure that we're able to keep doing this kind of work and take care of the animals. So thank you very much for those donations. Now, Shauna, what did you recover on this latest seine haul? And I keep saying seine. That is a seine net.
And a seine has a pole on either side, lead weights on the bottom, and floats on the top made of styrofoam.
All right, so that's a seine. So sorry for using that word without explaining it. But what did you get, Shauna?
Okay, so I have a common log perch. These guys are another type of darter. They're in a different genus than the redlines that we caught earlier. But these guys are super cool because if you can see on his snout, it's kind of long and flat. And that is for him to be able to go around and flip rocks. So he'll flip rocks at the bottom of the stream and eat all the little aquatic inverts on the bottom of it.
That green near his face is just beautiful.
Yeah, the iridescent green on his face there. These guys are also really good mussel hosts. So we are currently propagating common log perch at the Conservation Institute to be sent to one of our partners to be mussel hosts, so that they can reintroduce endangered mussels back into their habitat.
Shauna, you're just like an Endangered Species Day star. You're providing such easy segues.
I learned from the best.
Now, what Shauna's talking about, we do have some information about that on our website, tnaqua.org. If you go into I think it's our blog, or it might be our newsroom, you can find out a little bit more about that work we're doing with the Cumberland Aquatic Center.
Cumberland River Aquatic Conservation Center. Meredith, if Meredith is watching, she can type it into the comments.
Don't ask me. I don't even know my title. So
They're up by Nashville.
Yeah, they are associated. It's a facility associated with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, with whom Tennessee, the Tennessee Aquarium Conservation Institute, does an awful lot of work with TWRA, or the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. So that's a great segue to talking about our work, not just with endangered fish, but also with endangered mussels.
Yes.
So cool. Do we need to get that guy back in the water?
Get him back.
let me quickly explain what a host is and what mussels do with fish. So all native North American mussels, when their eggs hatch inside the female mussel, they release a juvenile stage called a Glucidium, plural Glucidium. And they look like little staple removers. They're little Pac-Men with teeth. They've got these little sharp teeth, and most of them have to attach to the gills or the fins of a fish, stay on there for a couple of weeks, transform to a juvenile. Casey's laughing because of my fins and gills. And then they drop off as a juvenile mussel. But if they can't find a fish, that little larval stage, those Glucidia, they don't survive. And some species of mussels, the only appropriate host is a specific species of fish, like a log perch. And once a fish is infected, it can't get infected again. So that's why we don't want to go out, collect a bunch of log perch, put him in with an endangered mussel, have that female release her Glucidia, and all of the fish you put in there already had Glucidia on them last year, and nothing takes. But if you bring in log perch, propagate them, you have new offspring that have never been infected, so you know you'll get a good infection rate, which is a little scary with COVID-19, but this is a good infection.
Not the infection that's going to kill them.
No, this is a good parasite. It doesn't kill its host, it just uses it and then says, bye-bye, I'm going to be in mussel.
Thank you.
Well, and a couple points we should make here. Common log perch are, as that name suggests, they are not endangered. They're least concern, right?
We came here last year to get the brood stock. We got 35 log perch in 5 seine halls.
I was here for that. It was pretty incredible. So we're not using an endangered species to help another endangered species. But what's important, if you don't know about mussels, and I'll let Bernie explain this because I'm not the scientist, but you mentioned water quality, and they play a hugely important role in water quality, and many mussels need our help, which is why we're helping with these. So can you talk about the role that mussels play in water quality?
So first off, they are the most endangered group of aquatic animals in the southeastern United States, really across all of North America. They filter feed. That means they have a little tube, they stick out, the water comes in, they take the organic particles out of the water, and then they release fresh, clean water out of another tube. And they can filter, some of them up to 1 gallon or more of water in a day.
And they're about how big? So that to give people an idea of the scale.
Yeah, so some native mussels, they might get that big. Some of them, like washboards, they're that big. So they're really variable in size, and they are really good at cleaning our water.
So if we lose mussels, that's a pretty important step in that natural filtration process that you're not getting. All right.
Yes, and these mussels create lures, some of them, to entice fish to bite on this lure, and that lure is full of the little larvae, the Glucidia, and some of them mimic crayfish, bugs, small fish, and I don't want to lose these mussels because those lures are amazing. Go to the interweb, go to the Google machine and type in, mussel lures and see what comes up. It's amazing.
And that's Mussel, just to be clear.
Not bad. Of course, I really don't have one, but no, Mussel, yes.
All right. So do we have anything else to look at in this seine haul, or do we need to do another one?
Again. If it was up to me, we'd do less talking and more fish collected.
I don't know about that, Bernie. You like to talk.
Well, that's true.
Even more compliments for your mask, Bernie. People really are loving the fish mask. All right, I'm going to do what I can to look through these comments. If you missed the early part of this, it's very bright out here, so it's hard for me to actually see what you're typing. I really appreciate the comments and the questions, but it's taking me a little bit of time to get to them. It's not that I'm not interested, it's just that I can't see what you're typing. So Jennifer, I will ask your question. The fish south of Georgia, or south of Atlanta, as soon as Bernie and Shauna are done with the seine haul. I don't want to interrupt them because, as you're about to see, if you didn't watch the earlier seine collecting, it's a little bit of a treacherous dance that Shauna's going to be doing, and Bernie is standing in moving water, so I don't want to imperil anybody accidentally by asking questions and distracting them. But I will ask Bernie as soon as I'm able to.
This is also called the Darter Shuffle.
If you didn't hear Bernie, he said this is also called the Darter Shuffle. And what she's doing, again, what Shauna is doing, is just kicking her feet in an effort to sort of push any aquatic life that's in the stream toward that net so that then it can be lifted up and recovered safely without harming it, but so that we can show you just exactly what's in this. Oh, we didn't get anything. A goose egg. You caught a goose egg.
Okay, so we'll try to seine down three.
So even though this is a healthy ecosystem, every seine haul is not necessarily going to be a success. Even if you're an expert like Bernie and Shauna. So I don't feel bad asking you now that you're on dry land, Bernie, and it looks like we got some fish. Jennifer DeMond would like to know, how does sorry, I'm going to get back up there. Are the fish here similar to the fish that we have in Georgia? We're south of Atlanta.
That is a different river drainage. That would be the Chattahoochee River drainage. And some of the species would be the same, but over half of them would be different species because it's a different river drainage.
Okay. All right, so we are on a quest today. If you're tuning in late, it is Endangered Species Day, and one of the things we were going to try and do today, obviously fish are not always going to cooperate with your intentions, but we are looking for the Snail Darter, it is officially a federally threatened darter that well, I'll let Bernie say, I'm not going to do the science for you.
Here, you can hold this, and let me tell the story of the Snail Darter. So the Snail Darter was one of the first animals listed as endangered under the Endangered Species Act back in the mid-1970s. Problems were dam construction and really poor water quality in our main rivers. This fish lives in the Tennessee River proper, in the Holston River, so larger rivers. We only see them here in South Chickamauga Creek in the springtime when they migrate up from the Tennessee River to spawn.
So they'd be migrating upstream from there.
Yes. And they can't go any further than here because of the dam. So what else happened in the 1970s? The Clean Water Act was passed. And about the 1990s, the early 2000s, that really started to take effect, and our large rivers have become way more clean over the last 15 years than they were the previous decades. So that helped, one, with the water quality. Then number two, TVA who is in charge of most of the dams on the main stems of these larger rivers, they instituted a dam water quality improvement program in the 90s to improve the oxygen below dams. They established minimum flows, so that helped with the health of the river too. So on their own, snail darters became more common. They started showing up in more places, so they got downlisted from endangered to threatened. Now, over the last 5 or 6 years, they've popped up downstream into Alabama and all the way to Bear Creek, which is on the Mississippi-Alabama border. When they were first described and listed, they were only known from around Knoxville. So this is an incredibly good success story, how environmental legislation to clean up our waters and work by TVA to improve the water quality around their dams has led to the snail darter on the brink of extinction to on the brink of being off the list. Right now there's several agencies working on delisting the snail darter, just removing it from the list because it's been so successful.
So that is an excellent point that I feel like a lot of people think about endangered species and the immediate thought is that's really sad and it's a bad thing. But the truth of the matter is, being on the endangered species list, it provides a lot of attention, a lot of resources that can go into conservation, and really it can be a wake-up call that ultimately it's not the end of the story. It doesn't, or if it's the end of the story, it doesn't have to be a bad ending. It can turn into good things. I mean, there are some other examples that are pretty high profile of endangered species coming off the list. Can you list a couple of those?
The iconic one is the bald eagle, our national symbol. It came off the list probably, about 15, 20 years ago.
American alligator too, I believe.
Yes, that one came off the list too. The crocodile was still on the list, but the alligator came off because they stopped the poaching that was going on. The American buffalo, I believe it's off the list now.
So long story short, it doesn't have to be the end of the story for a species.
Doesn't. It's a long way to go for a lot of aquatic species. Aquatics have it harder because you just can't have a preserve, because whatever's upstream of that preserve on a river affects what happens on that preserve, and even what happens downstream can affect what happens upstream on the preserve. So aquatic conservation is much trickier because everything in that watershed, everything in the land surrounding the water, where a drop of water hits that land and gets to that water, affects the animals and the river that the animals live in. So it is a challenge, but it's a challenge we welcome.
Now, in the interest of making sure that these fish that we've collected aren't endangered any further, Shauna, what have we got here?
We'll give Bernie the minnows. He's the minnow expert. I have a very pregnant, what I believe to be a banded darter, Euphiopsima zonale. So springtime is the time of the year when a lot of these darters spawn. So they will kind of congregate into certain areas these guys like. Those riffles that we talked about earlier, and the males and females will get together and lay their eggs and fertilize their eggs, and in a couple months we'll have little babies. So you see how very round she is. She is full of eggs and she is ready to spawn.
So would a science term for that be, can fish also be gravid, or is that just turtles?
Yep, fish can also be gravid. Yep, this is a gravid female.
All right, that's a fun science word that I'm a big fan of. And you're going to see another example of why water quality is important, and that is recreation. So South Chick Creek is not just for fish. People are using it to recreate.
Hi guys, having fun? All right. Oh, we're not judging, just have fun.
Everyone on the internet, say hello to the kayakers. All right, and Bernie, what do you have while Shauna returns that gravid banded darter to the creek?
The guy on top, the biggest guy, that is a striped shiner. They are really common. They're typically, this one is what everyone thinks of a shiner or minnow. Oh, it's bayed, it's brown and silver. But the breeding males get this bright, iridescent pastel pink on them. They're gorgeous. This just happens to be a non-breeding individual. The little guy up there is a mosquito fish.
Oh, okay.
They are quite an issue if they're put where they're not native to. They are native to South Chickamauga Creek. And these guys, they have internal fertilization. The female has the young hatch inside of her, and she gives birth to live young just like guppies.
All right.
And then this last minnow down here, it kind of has me stumped. It might be a mimic shiner. We're going to have to put it in the bucket and get some good pictures.
I'll go get the bucket.
But
So is this actual science that's about to happen?
this is actual science that's about to happen. Mimic shiners are found. They're mimic shiners because they look like everything else. They're hard to identify. They're typically found further downstream, but we've never found one this far upstream here at the dam. But this might be a mimic shiner, so we're going to put it in the bucket and take some up-close pictures where I can see some of the key characters I need to tell if it is really a mimic shiner.
All right. I'm going to let Bernie return those fish to the creek from whence they came, and I'm going to see if I can find somewhere where it's a little bit shadier so I can look at some of these questions. Give me just 1 second while I crouch beneath the shade of this tree. Danelle McDaniel, who also works at the aquarium, says it's a live stream from a live stream. Ha ha. We do need more. We need more puns for today, like all days, especially with Bernie. So that was a good one, Danelle.
Okay, we're going to try and get some more fish. You can ask questions as we're collecting.
Oh, okay. So Bernie has given me free rein to distract him while he's standing in the middle of the stream.
Anything to get back in the river and not talk so much.
I'm telling you, he does really like to talk.
Megan Wallace says, this was so great. I really enjoyed it. And the 3-year-old dipped in and out. The aquariums were great. We do love those aquariums. They make an excellent way to exhibit the fish that we're working with.
Try and get a
So apparently we're on a quest to find a male banded darter.
Yeah,
They like vegetation.
And as you can see, we are in the midst of a little bit of aquatic vegetation.
a counterpart to that rabid female we just saw.
Drew Count says, I love your videos. Drew, we love our watchers, our audience, our viewers, all of the above.
Thank you.
So thank you for watching. Keith Sanford is still watching, so if you have any comments for our president and CEO, Bernie, this would be the time to share them. Drew,
Doing a great job.
you are doing a great job, Keith.
The clouds.
Laura Jackson says, careful, don't tell the birds there's a perch in the stream.
I like it.
That's pretty good. That took me a second.
I got a turtle.
Hey! Awesome. All right, well, I'll get out of the way so we can get back up on dry land here.
Looks like a musk turtle.
Sarah Sweat conveniently was watching and was kind enough to identify the facility with which we're doing our mussel research, and that is the Cumberland River Aquatic Center. I was right. Oh, looks like we got crayfish as well.
So here is a crawdad, crayfish, mud bug. They go by many names. This guy's got some nice little orange on the tip of his claws or pinchers. He's got many legs.
Many legs.
This one is a female.
Now, how can you tell?
So there's a little opening right there between her last set of legs. And there's no structures in there that the males would have. They have internal fertilization. And if you're ever eating a lobster, you can sex them too.
Bernie probably has done.
No, this is, I love crayfish just because I feel like they're another one of those examples of fish that are what aquatic life that you just don't even recognize is right next to you, is right in your backyard in a lot of cases. And just like a lot of other kinds of aquatic life we've talked about, there are a lot of crayfish in this part of the country as well.
Where'd the turtle go?
I put him under there so he didn't escape.
Hey, Daddy. Come here.
Now, are you going to be able to identify this, or is this we need to have our herpetologist or Josh Innan, our turtle specialist, identify?
I believe it's a musk turtle. Stenotherus odiferus, I think. But I may be wrong.
Well, you will hear from, I'm sure, Josh Innan, Dr. Josh Innan, our turtle specialist, later if you happen to be wrong.
So you can see he's got a rather large head. He's got kind of a pig nose. It's really cute. He does not oink though. If we flip him over, you can see that his plastron, that shell on the bottom, has an interesting pattern. And then you can tell turtles don't move much because look he's got algae growing on his back.
All right. Should we
buddy.
let him go?
We'll let him go. Bye-bye.
He looks just like a rock. Just like a rock. All right, Shauna, what did you get?
So I do not have a fish, but I have
Cool!
an aquatic insect larvae. This is a dragonfly larvae, so this is what dragonflies are when they're little babies. Dragonflies will lay their eggs in the water, and then they will hatch out, and obviously they're not going to be that big, but they grow up in the water, feeding off of what's in the water, and then when they're ready to morph into adults, they will do that. So this guy kind of looks like a leaf, so that keeps him protected from certain predators. There are a lot of different types of dragonflies, so we've got a lot of different types of dragonfly larvae, so this is just one of the species that we come across here in South Chick. So they're very cool.
Let them see the top. They might be able to see the wing pads. So on the top of their body, they actually have, right behind their head, wings growing underneath that exoskeleton that once they become adult becomes their full-blown wings.
That's cool. Karen Estes says y'all are insane. And you can judge by my tone of voice how she spelled it.
Yeah.
Drew Count says, stay safe out there. That's fairly safe.
It's a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day. The water's not up too much. We wouldn't normally go out and do this. Bernie is pretty good at making sure that the water levels are at an appropriate height for doing this kind of work for a lot of reasons, but safety is one of them.
Yes, and there's the simple dilution factor. If you all of a sudden have 5 times more water in the creek than you normally would, well then those fish spread out and you got 1/5 the chance of finding them. So, and then if it gets too deep, you've got 0 chance. But USGS, the United States Geological
Society?
Survey, they have what they call gauging stations throughout the country, and you can get online, and they have one on South Chickamauga Creek, and you can see what the water level is and the flow is, and you can compare it across several months, several years, and see how high or low the water is, so you don't have to drive to the creek to see it's too high. You can just get online and see it's too high. Technology, it's great.
Speaking of technology, this is a little bit simpler, but Megan Wallace would like to know, can lay people get aquariums? I think my 3-year-old would love this. We could stay in our local creek or river.
We make ours, and we actually have a little how-to somewhere. So if she would email...
Go to the, on the Tennessee Aquarium's webpage, there is...
So tnaqua.org.
Yep, there's a page for the Conservation Institute, and you can click on staff. And you should be able to see a list of all the staff. Just shoot an email to me or Bernie, or actually Sarah Sweat has it, so she would be the best resource for that.
And Sarah is watching, so Sarah, if you happen to know what web address Shauna is referring to that would get people access to that how to build a aquarium, if you could type that in the comments, that'd be awesome. You could be get an extra gold star from us today.
Sarah gets lots of gold stars. She built a wonderful conservation story on the Laurel Dace that Casey can tell you whether or not we pushed it out.
I'm not sure. I know that we talked about it earlier this week. I know it's in process. I'm not sure if it's actually been pushed out just yet, but if not now, then soon. So keep an eye on the aquarium's social channels. Well, this train in the background, this is not a native train. We're fairly certain this is an invasive train. You can tell by its mating call. It's a very loud mating call. But anyway, keep an eye on our social channels and the interactive. Are we calling it a story map?
Yes, it's a conservation story.
A conservation story map about the Laurel dace, which Shauna, obviously, she mentioned earlier, that's her favorite fish with which she has been working for multiple years. So we will be pushing that out soon if we have not already on our social channels. So keep an eye on our Facebook and our Twitter, and you'll know when it goes out. Laura Jackson says, I need a wide-brimmed hat to shade my screen. Actually, Laura, I let my brain do some work for me, and I realized that I have hands that I can use to shade the screen too. So I don't actually need a wide-brimmed hat, though I wouldn't mind having one. Apparently, people are very concerned about us having wide-brimmed hats and the fact that we're all pale, sunburnable people.
We have sunscreen on.
Well, the scientists do, but that's why they're scientists, and I'm the dum-dum who didn't put on sunscreen. So my ears might be red, who knows? And if my mom is still watching, she will undoubtedly let me know that I'm an idiot for not wearing sunscreen.
Okay, here we got the most common brim or sunfish in the southeast. This is a bluegill. And breeding males actually get blue on the underside of their heads at the bottom of their gill cover, hence the name bluegill. There's no blue on this one, but I can tell this is a bluegill because he has those uniform stripes on the side, and his little ear tab, that little black structure there on his gill cover, is black all the way to the edge.
Megan Wallace says, oh my gosh, this is unrelated to what you're talking about, Bernie, but dragonfly larvae, that's so awesome. The turtle and the crayfish got the 3-year-old's attention. Very cool. So if you can just magic up some more crayfish or turtles, that would be awesome. We do want to make sure that we entertain all of our viewers.
More shallow.
Yeah, more shallow water.
I'm half kidding.
Oh no, we take requests.
Oh, okay. Well. So Megan Wallace says, thank you for the Folkquarium info. We'll definitely check into that. Yeah, please do. And if you happen to make a Folkquarium, and especially if you get a chance to go out and use it, right now, when a lot of us are at home and have a little bit of time to go out and do some things that maybe we wouldn't do, especially with our kids, if you get pictures of that Folkquarium being used, we would love to know and maybe even share that on our social channels to get some other people building their own Folkquarium. So please share that with us if you do happen to make one. So what they're doing now is seine hauling with the current. So you saw earlier them doing the darter shuffle, or the darter dance as Bernie has called it, to try and push things with the current into the seine net. But what they just did was to move downstream with the current just a little bit faster than the current to try and catch things as they were swimming. Did we get anything?
To prove that we didn't just bring the Ethios majesty with us,
Blue side darter.
we caught another one.
All right.
So if those of you who missed the beginning of the live stream, this is called the blue side darter, aptly named because of how beautiful and blue he is along his face and down his side.
That is one hot fish.
Yes.
Woo!
This is a male. This guy is ready to spawn. He is ready to breed. He is out here looking for females who are laying eggs so that he can fertilize them and contribute to the next generation.
The orange and the blue markings, you see that on a lot of darters. It seems like the ones that we've worked with, at least, the vermilion darters also orange and blue, right? Is there a reason for that particular coloration being so common?
It maybe helps them blend in, but still attract the females. Remember, fish, the spectrum of colors is different under the water than in the air, and their vision is way different than us. So what we may see as orange and yellows might be pinks and purples to them, or some color we don't even know of. Think about that.
That's pretty interesting. What does a fish actually see? Lou Everman says is the common train in the same genus as the exotic scissorlift, which has made plenty of appearances in our tropical cove live stream. So that's a bit of an inside joke and a good callback, Lou. And actually, I'm not sure. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a trained scientist.
We would need a taxonomist on that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, even the scientists are stumped. So
All right,
You
going
can
back.
probably get some more aquatic insects out of these tree roots over here.
apparently, Megan Wallace says, "Oh, the 3-year-old loves the train." Okay, well. We cannot seine up a train. No matter what Bernie has said about taking requests, we are probably not going to be able to recover a train in a seine hall.
Oh, no. Here, let's go under here.
George, whose last name I am just not going to try and pronounce because I feel like I just do a horrible butchering of it, says, "Let's see that darter shuffle."
On it.
Is it Gavrilites?
Probably, yes. That sounds right.
George! Hi, George!
Yeah, so let's...
George, you get your butt out here and do the dartle shuffle.
But it was a request, and so she's going to soldier on and do it anyway. Shauna is nothing if not a team player.
George was an intern for us several years ago, and he just finished his master's degree in Arkansas.
So congratulations to George. And thank you for encouraging Shauna to do this.
George and I did a lot of shuffling together. Sticks here. Oh, some plastic.
So do you have any idea what the water temperature is right now, Bernie? I asked because I'm standing in it. I'm just curious.
It's refreshing.
It is refreshing. It's not too cold, but
I'd guess 70?
okay. So not quite the 58 degrees we were talking about yesterday during our brook trout live stream.
There's another Natropus. Now let's go to shore.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna migrate back onto land.
A little easier seeing the critters.
It is a little bit astonishing that we actually get better reception for these live streams when we're literally out in the middle of the woods in a stream than we do inside our own building.
Oh, that's Colin.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll put my mask on.
And I made you kick in that evil tree. That's another Natropus. We never go. No, I know what this is. I know what this one is. It was probably the other one too, and I was dumb. This, come here, little buddy, turn around. This is a big eye chub. Notice he has a big eye,
Aptly named.
and then
Thank you to whoever named
you can't see it, but this guy has a little whisker at the corner of his mouth. I know you can't see my mouth, but trust me, I pointed to my mouth. And he's got kind of a big nose. And so this guy is a minnow that stays more or less near the bottom because that mouth is on the bottom side of the head and feeds mostly off the bottom. And big eye chub, Hybopsis amblops, they're pretty cool fish. I like them.
So does this mean the one that's in the bucket that you were going to get pictures
It's
of?
probably a Hybopsis amblops and I screwed up, which I do all the time.
So Bernie, do you have, I've always wondered this, you have this, again, encyclopedic knowledge of fish and can rattle off scientific names left, right, and center. How do you memorize them? Or is this just from 30 years
This
of...
is 30 plus years of playing with these guys, and it just sticks. You know, how do parents remember their kids' names?
I have two. It's a little easier than hundreds of fish.
All right. How do teachers remember all their pupils' names in a class?
Fair.
So there you go. Now, I also identify minnows by the expression on their face. And you can see this guy looks surprised, and all the Hybopsis in this group look surprised. It's a key character in identifying minnows. Facial expressions. Now, I'm the only one that uses it, but it works really well.
If it works for you, you are the probably leading fish scientist on camera right now.
Okay, that sounds good.
Literally on camera. I'm not saying anything about Shauna because Shauna wasn't on camera.
No. Bernie has been my mentor here the last 5 years, so I've learned a lot from him. A more scientific explanation as to why Bernie remembers so many fish is most fish will only stick to a certain drainage. So like the Tennessee River can be one drainage. The Mobile Basin is another drainage that Bernie and I work in that kind of runs through Georgia into Alabama. So we know what species are here in these drainages. So we know that something that we find is going to be unique to this drainage. Excuse me, that's pollen. So that's kind of how I remember where things are. Okay, Birdie.
Okay, you're done talking. She's all choked up over the cool fish we're getting. Okay, so I made Sean a kick in a sycamore, and they're notorious for having a lot of pollen.
Oh, you do this to me all the time.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay, these are a different kind of darter. They're in a group we call snub-nosed darters. Snub means like short. So can you see how short their snouts are in front of their eyes?
They're like the pugs of the darter world.
They're the pugs of the darter world, yes. And these are Tennessee darters is the common name, Ethiostoma tennesseense. And these are females, so they are basically that straw colored with some black markings on the side.
So I don't mean to interrupt, Bernie,
That's okay.
But since we're talking about, you mentioned Tennessee darter, that made me think of the Tennessee dace. So an interesting thing that we do, or that the scientists at the Conservation Institute do, and I'm assuming at other scientific institutions, if you're working with an endangered species, sometimes you can use a not endangered species to serve as kind of a surrogate. Can you talk a little bit about why we would use a surrogate species to better understand an endangered one?
Okay, good example is the laurel dace. Shauna, she is the laurel dace expert. She's recovering from the pollen from the sycamore. And it's an extremely imperiled fish. It's now down to 2 streams on the entire planet. So some parts of understanding the life history of a species and understanding how long it lives, how many eggs it lays, what it eats, you need to sacrifice individuals and look in their stomachs. You need to actually open their heads and get an ear bone, mount it, polish it, and you count the rings. That tells you how many years old it is, just like a tree, rings in a tree trunk. Well, you can't do that to this endangered species that's only found in 2 streams. But you can get a close relative, the Tennessee dace, which is found in hundreds and hundreds of creeks throughout the upper Tennessee drainage, and sacrifice a few individuals each month for a year and find out those details from the surrogate species and apply that to the endangered species.
So even if we're working with a species that happens to not be on the endangered species list, since today is an Endangered Species Day live stream, those other species can still help us.
Yes, they are very good surrogates. They're very good replacements for that endangered species to learn a lot of science that we can't directly get from that endangered species because they're so rare.
Looks like my mom did call me out. She says, absolutely, you burn really badly. Sunscreen with 3 exclamation points. So it's nice to be cared for.
All right, let's try and get some different kind of fish. Let's see if we can get a male Tennessee darter.
Carla Gunard says, what river is that? This is South Chickamauga Creek, which flows into the Tennessee River. So
Just
there you
below
go.
Chickamauga Dam.
This would be a tributary then. And if you're a very young watcher and are not familiar with the word tributary, a tributary is a waterway that flows into another waterway. Well, into a larger waterway.
Yeah. Sorry, Shauna.
No, it's okay. Remember that time George was with us when you
Oh.
let go of the sycamore branch and hit me in the face?
Yeah. You
Oh, and
walked about a half an hour.
Sarah Sweat was on top of it and answered that question before I even got a chance to. But I did say that this flows into the Tennessee River, so you got extra information, even if you had to wait for it. And Sarah Sweat made a good point. She said that you can see pictures of many of these beautiful native species of fish and find out what's in your own backyard by going to the Fish Identification Network, or FIN, Freshwater Identification Network. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Freshwater
Information Network.
I messed everything up. Anyway, if you go to tenacifin.com, so TNACIFIN.com, you can make use of that resource, which is a great way to find out all the species that have been confirmed to live in the watershed, in watersheds all over the place. But you can check the one that's closest to you to see what you're missing. So thank you for that recommendation.
Okay, a couple more big-eyed chubs, Hibopsis amblops. They have that surprised expression on their face.
All right. Now you have no trouble identifying them.
No. You know, I haven't been in the field for 2 months. I'm getting back in my field work groove.
So we've seen both of these fish, but I just wanted to show you guys the diversity in darters. So we've seen the common log perch, we've seen the redline darter. I wish we could see their faces a little bit better. But they're very different. So just because it's the darter doesn't mean that they're are all going to look the same. They are in 2 different, what we call genuses. So this one's scientific name starts with Persina, and this one's scientific name starts with Ethiostoma. So they're darters, they're similar, but they're also very different. And it's just always kind of cool. Persinas tend to be longer and more cigar in shape, and Ethiostomas tend to be a little shorter and chunkier.
So those of you who are watching who have been keeping up with our Weekday Wonders educational series of activities that are released 5 days in a row, starting Monday going through Friday. Today there is usually a question of the day, and you can keep track of Weekday Wonders by going to tnaqua.org and going to our Aquarium at Home section. But today's Weekday Wonders question, I believe, and I didn't write it down, I should have, but I'm in the middle of a stream, so I can't check my notes, was why is there diversity within individuals of the same species? So Shauna, I'm catching you a little bit off guard with that, but can you answer why that would be the case?
My best response to that is, just like human beings have diversity within themselves, fish are also going to have diversity within themselves. So all of us have moms and dads who pass on their genetics that made us who we are. These guys also have parents that are going to pass on their genetics that are going to make them kind of who they are. So while humans are all the same species, and we all look a little different, log perch are also all the same species, but some of them might have different patterns. You know, they'll have similar patterns, but the stripes aren't going to be all the same size. Or you know, redline darters, maybe one has genetics that makes it more red, and this one has genetics that makes it a little more orange. So that's the most simple explanation I can make for that.
All right, for those of you who are keeping track of Weekday Wonders, and I hope that you are, hopefully that gives you a key to today's question of the day. And I did not forget for once to ask that question. I may have gotten the wording a little bit different, but that was very interesting regardless. So, a log perch and redline darter, which we have seen before, but they are still very beautiful fish.
Do we have time to sample a little more?
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that there was going to be a big finale. You mentioned it off camera, so now I'm saying it on camera. There's a big finale to all this.
Well, do you want us to get to that now?
We can do another collection. We've still got people watching, and
okay.
I don't mind spending more time in a beautiful stream.
There is a grand finale coming up in 10 minutes, which can be either spectacular success or we might just crash and burn.
But that is true to the way that this always can go. I mean, whether people are watching or not, it could be, you could get 30 log perch and 5 seine hauls, as Bernie was mentioning earlier, or you could just come away with goose eggs all day. And we have actually hit the bottom of the comments and questions. By no means does that mean that you cannot keep asking those questions, but we've actually gotten to the bottom of the list. So if you have more questions, type them down. I'm happy to pass them on to Bernie and Shauna, who, as you probably have seen, are more than happy to answer them. But for now, we can just watch and see science in action.
So now we're standing in a backwater, and we may get some different fishes in here. Yours.
Laura Jackson says, I like the log perch's bold stripes. I do too. That tiger striping is one of my favorite things about that fish. So Bernie, when you're sampling a waterway like this for the first time, what is your typical approach to how to where to seine and how?
It depends on why we're there. If we're looking for a particular species, we go to that microhabitat where we know it lives. If we're doing a general survey to know all the fishes in a stream, we go to all the different microhabitats, like this backwater, along the shore, out in the middle, pools, riffles, runs, glides, because different fishes live in those different habitats.
Oh, Shauna, you're gonna get that 3-year-old's attention again.
It's a baby!
It's a baby! I have no idea what kind of turtle this is, but it's cute.
I believe it's another musk turtle.
Another musk
Oh, I
turtle.
say it kind of looks like the larger one we caught earlier.
Yes.
That is
Very cool.
that is cute. Angela Lee says she's watching from Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us. We actually work with some species that are found near Nashville, so this is all still relevant to you.
So, and you will see if you look in this net, Casey, that
Oh, wow.
sunfishes love backwater.
I was going to say, this definitely looks like Sunfish City.
We were hoping to catch a top minnow.
So why then, Shauna, would you hope to catch a top minnow by seining in this particular part of the stream?
The top minnows like to swim towards the surface. So they're not going to like that really fast flowing water that you see kind of out in the middle of the stream. So they like the slower backwater. They hang out at the surface, feed. They have mouths that kind of turn up, so they feed from the top of the surface. So this is the habitat that we would expect to find them in. A little surprised we didn't catch any, but that doesn't mean that they're not here.
I have another crayfish. It looks like it's the same species with those orange tips on the claw. But this guy's a male. So let me flip him over. No, don't go away. Stay. Let go of my hand, please. Let go. Here, let me let go of him and he'll let go of my hand. Ow, that one hurt. Please let go. Okay. So, can you guys see these two structures here? Move that claw out of the way, please. That are pointing. Do you have a little stick or
Yeah,
something?
look for one here. It's got thorns on it.
Well, I'm playing with his naughty bits, so he might get a little upset. But these two structures that go up like this and this, that's what he uses for internal fertilization into the female. I don't know if you can see them. They're white, and they go up there and there. And if I could grab one and pull it away, I would, but it's just too small, and he's got them, for some reason, he's got them tucked up tight against his body. I don't know why.
So Bernie, to bring this back to endangered species for just a second, we mentioned that you do a lot of work with darters, but you also do work with some pretty rare and super interesting crayfish. So can you talk a little bit about that work you've done?
So I like going underground into caves, and I'd only go in a cave that has water, because I study cave fish, cave crayfish, and cave shrimp. And these are animals that live in total darkness. So unlike this crayfish that has eyes, has color, has claws that are attached to me that, you know, aren't all that long and skinny, when you get into a cave, the cave crayfish there, they have no eyes, they have no color, and their claws are long and skinny. The cave fish, no eyes, no color. The cave shrimp, little, they're see-through. You basically see a shadow moving to see them. And they either feel their way around. The antenna here is about this long on this guy. They would be 3 times that long on a cave crayfish.
Wow.
And they actually feel around in front of them with that antenna. The fish, they have a system of canals with pores to the surface, and when a water wave hits the side of their body or their head, they feel that and they know that something just moved over there. Or if they're swimming, they push water in front of them. If that water hits a cliff and bounces back, they feel that and they know that there's a rock or a cliff in front of them.
Wow.
And just to let you know how sensitive they are, when I started studying cave fish back in the early 1990s, it took me a year to figure out how to catch them. You would come at them from the top with a net, from the side with a net, and they would just feel that net coming and they dart underneath a cliff. I finally figured it out. You have to be in the water, get the net under them, and come at them this way, and they swim away up. You just follow them to the surface, and then you catch them. But cave fish outfoxed me for a year. I'm not very smart, or they're really smart.
All right, so that gives you an idea of some of the other animals that Bernie works with, and we've had a few more comments come in. Looks like David's son says, "Hi guys." Hello.
Hi, David.
Hey.
David is also an intern.
All right.
Thanks, you.
Pam Keith says, "I love turtles." We all love turtles. And that was an especially adorable, we think, baby or juvenile musk turtle that Shauna recovered in that most recent seine haul that we're still talking about.
Okay, now every sunfish in there was a bluegill, except this one. This one is a red ear sunfish.
Maybe.
Maybe, he's pretty small, but can you see how his side is more checkerboard than straight lines? And can you see a little bit of orangish red on the back of that ear tab?
Mm-hmm.
That's where he gets the name red ear, because that's not really an ear, but close enough. He has that red or that orange on his ear tab, hence the name red ear sunfish.
All right. And Renee Burns says, "Hi, I'm still logging in and watching from Austin, Texas. Someday I'll make it to Tennessee and see your aquarium in person." Renee, we definitely look forward to that time when we're able to welcome you and everybody back to the aquarium. As of right now, we don't have plans that we can announce about reopening date, but do stay tuned to our social channels, and we'll be sure to let everyone who's following us know as soon as we have an announcement that we are ready to make.
Okay, let's walk upstream, grab our bag seine, and see what we can find in the big pool.
All right, sounds like a plan. And again, we're at the bottom of our comments list and questions list. Hopefully those of you who are watching are just quietly enjoying it and not holding back your curiosity, because we are all about satisfying curiosity and questions on these live streams, and I'm happy to pass any question you have, whether it's about what you're seeing or something maybe a little less specific to what you're watching. I'm happy to ask them of Bernie or Shauna, so do type them down in the comments. Don't be shy as we work our way back upstream to, what did you say, it's a bag net?
Bag seine.
A bag seine.
So I'll walk and talk, and you check out the river. So a bag seine, so you've seen the seine we've been using. This is a 10-foot long and 6-foot tall seine, and it's just flat. It's just a piece of material with holes in it straight up and down. We're going to get a 20-foot bag seine. It's 20 feet long, 6 feet tall, but it actually has a bag 4 by 4 by 4 feet sewn in the middle of it. And as you drag that seine through the pool, fish get in that bag and they can't figure which way is out. So they stay in the bag rather than just hitting that net and swimming right back out. So it's a way to catch bigger fish.
And as we should point out that just like we've been doing with the other nets, this is just a way to safely, without harming any of the aquatic animals that we're finding today. This is a way to do that without in any way adversely affecting them.
Yes, a lot of fisheries biologists use electricity in the water to stun the fish, and then a lot of them float to the top. The darters, they roll along on the bottom, and you dip them up. But when you have an imperiled species around, you could cause harm. So we almost never use a shocker. We almost always just use nets.
So looks like Marissa Fry says, "My kids and I are watching from Cookeville, Tennessee. They said they are excited to see what different species," and I can't expand comments during these live streams, so I'm going to say that they're just excited to see the different species that crop up as we're doing these seine hauls. And hopefully we'll get some new ones when we use this bag net.
Bag seine.
Bag seine, sorry.
But it is a net. You are correct.
All right,
Not
so
to be confused with the baguette.
yes, if we were using baguettes, we would probably catch some very different animals.
That would be bad for our net. A piece of metal. We'll recycle that.
You want to go out and
We can do one just out and up, and then we can do a second one across.
remember, I'm not 6'5", 4, however tall you are.
Okay.
Don't drown me.
I won't drown you. I'll try not to flood your waders. But if it's that or a big fish, I got to go with the big fish.
I'd like to point out that I am not wearing waders. So let's just try not to drown me, period.
I would go straight across, but I don't know what. Well, we could try to go straight across.
So Megan Wallace says she is excited to see what comes out of the pool. We are all waiting on pins and needles to find what this massive net is going to recover. So given that I'm not entirely sure how deep this water is, I'm going to go ahead and let the scientists play the role of action hero today, and I'll stay where I think it's a little bit drier for everybody's sake.
I must be on the shallow side. Okay, wait a minute. We're off.
So I will say I walked earlier across and it didn't go above like my waist. So
Why don't you come this way, Shauna, and you're fine, you're fine.
Matthew Lewis says, this is so cool. Matthew, it is cool. And at the moment, we should point out that this waterway, this particular part of the creek actually did really heavily not too long ago. And as a consequence of that, the geography of the stream has changed pretty dramatically from what it has been the last few times I've been here. So they're literally in uncharted waters at the moment. So we're trying to go slowly so we don't inadvertently take a spill or send Shauna to the bottom of the creek. And it looks like, yes, we have successfully navigated the creek.
So let's come together. I got sticks in my way. Hold the bottom to us. I love this net because it's like Christmas morning. What's going to be here? We have to unwrap it and find out.
I almost went under. I'm not worried about me, but I would like the live stream to continue without losing our followers.
Well, we didn't get a big snag. That's victory number 1. Now, whether we got any fish or not, that's another story. Did we get some fish? Did we get some fish? Oh, we got a fish.
We got one.
One sunfish.
Science is hard.
It is.
So will there be another attempt at this, or is this
yes.
our... Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, that was kind of weak.
This isn't good enough.
We want to end on a high note.
This looks like this might be an invasive red-breast sunfish. They're native further east of here, but they've been introduced. But that ear tab, this might be a hybrid too.
Sunfish hybridize.
Because that ear tab looks like a red ear. This looks like a red breast sunfish. So it may be a hybrid. It may be individual variation. It may be gone. Okay, we're going to try this again because that was not very successful.
Let's see. We got a couple questions. Marilyn Payne would like to know, do you snorkel there too? So do you snorkel in this part of the creek?
We don't because visibility's pretty poor.
Yeah, it's pretty dim.
Which way are you wanting to go?
I was thinking of getting past all the logs and going to that far shore.
Okay, I'm going to come around this way to the back.
Matthew Law says,
I can cross it.
Matthew Law says, do you have any guesses of what you might get in this big net?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. Matthew. What we're hoping to get is a gar, which is a prehistoric fish. There's long-nosed gar in here. They get 5 feet long. They have a big, long mouth on them, full of sharp teeth. They hang out like a log. They wait for a little fish to come by, and they go sideways and grab and eat them.
Do they bite people who are wearing shorts?
Only if your name's Casey.
All right. Well, this could be a very exciting end to the live stream for all of us.
Okay. Let me figure out what's the bottom, the top. Okay. And since the flood a month ago, we have no idea how deep this is going to be.
And again, I think I'm standing on a tree of some sort, so I'm probably going to stay here.
You may have to go down and around.
Yeah, I think I'll try and navigate around to. You're going to go on to the shore?
Yeah, the far shore.
All right.
If we can make it.
All right, so my commentary might pause a little bit while I try and navigate this because there are all kinds of hidden snarls and snags and rocks and...
Oh, show me a snarl. I want to see a snarl.
I'm glad that I'm used to the water now because it was cold to begin with.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite 70.
Oh, we are almost flooding.
I am getting some boulders.
That's not good.
Oh, I'm higher than you.
I'm higher than both of you, so I guess it's higher here.
Yeah.
I'm on my tiptoes. Oh my. Oh boy.
Hold on.
Okay.
Oh boy, hold on.
Oh, we're snagged. This is when we might crash and burn, guys. We're good.
My shirt is wet. That's all right. I should have asked everyone to bring waders for me. That would have been smart. And sunscreen. I'm really not doing great at any part of being out in the field today.
You're filming. Oh god. Nope.
It's shallow right here.
It's not where I am.
So Marilyn Payne says, do you remove the invasive ones that you catch or put them back?
We put them back unless it's a specific environment like the Laurel Dace, and then we actually, or Barron's top minnows, then we if it's an endangered species, we remove the invasive.
Okay. So Marilyn, hopefully that answers your question. And hopefully you can hear Bernie. I know I'm kind of far away, but I must needs be just because of how big this net is and to safely get across this creek. So this part of the creek would be called what, Bernie? A pool?
A pool.
A pool.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I got it on my side.
Okay,
You good?
we're good.
As Bernie said, this is a little bit like Christmas morning. So this is Christmas round 2 for Bernie and Shauna and all of you watching. So continuing to watch is a great sign of patience on your part. So kudos to all of you for having that virtue. And I can already see some fish in there.
What's it gonna be? There.
It's something awesome. Oh, wait.
Oh, got one in there. Get him in there.
Not totally fat.
No, we did okay this time. We got fish.
We got hogsuckers.
Oh, we got kissable hogsuckers. Yes.
I was hoping this was going to come up.
All right. Oh, this is so fun. All right. Let's talk about some of these critters. Shall we start out with fun?
Yeah.
So this is a northern hogsucker. Look at that mouth. Are those kissable lips or what?
And he's
You know
not
what?
he's not kidding.
You know what it's good luck to do? Oh no, come here.
Not lose it.
Kiss a hogsucker. If he cooperates, he's scared. That is good luck for the rest of the year right there.
And Bernie has done that on every occasion. I think I've seen him out with in this particular creek.
Unfortunately, we can't pass him around to kiss because of COVID-19, but he's a gorgeous fish. See the saddles along the back? That helps him blend in with the background so predators can't see him from above. He's got those nice orange fins. If I flip him over, let me give him a drink. He's got a nice white belly. And there's that sucker mouth. Hogsucker. What a great common name. Okay, we're going to let him go. See you, Hogsucker.
Here is our top minnow that we were trying to find in the other backwater before. These banded, black banded here?
Yes.
Yes, there's two species that look very similar that can cohabitate sometimes, live in the same place. But these guys hang out at the surface and feed off of the surface. I think they're particularly pretty cool because they kind of fill that top niche of the water that not very many fish fill. So there's your black-banded top minnow.
All right.
Here's a different kind of sucker. This is called a golden red horse. That's R-E-D-H-O-R-S-E. Moxostoma duquesnii. And you can see he does have his lips on the underside of his head, but they are not nearly as kissable as that hogsucker. He's rather an attractive fish. Why they're called red horse? Well, they get these reddish or orangish fins, but what they have to do with a horse, I have no idea.
Well, why is it called a hogsucker?
Because it looks just like a hog, doesn't it? But there are 15 species of red horses across the United States. The greatest diversity is here in the southeast. I'm going to let him go. Swim off.
Cheers.
All right. What did Shauna has recovered? Son, it looks like another sunfish.
Oh my! Okay, this is the prettiest native sunfish in Tennessee. This is the long ear sunfish, Lepomis megalotus.
And some of you may have actually seen some beautiful examples of this in our sunfish celebration tanks in the Discovery Hall gallery.
They've got those incredible wavy greenish blue lines, that white outline of that black ear tab or ear. They got the nice orange on the belly. They're just a handsome fish.
And again, anybody who says that freshwater fish are brown and green has not taken a very close look at some of the fish that are literally in our own backyard here in Chattanooga.
And they're not quite in their spawning colors yet. They're more of a summer, late spring and summer spawner. It's a little early for them. So he'll get even more colorful as the year goes on.
Anna Quintrell says, kiss him. Anna, obviously Bernie was way ahead of you on that one.
There's another little minnow in here somewhere.
Okay, let's find him.
Someone, Renee Burns says 2020 needs to kiss several of those fish.
We need all the good luck we can get.
Yes, this year could definitely do with a little bit of hogsucker love. Now we're probably going to be wrapping up here in just a little bit because my phone is about to die, unfortunately. So
Been out here that long.
Oh, cool. One more. New fish.
Sculpin.
Oh, no. This is Lythurus fasciolaris. The rosy face, rosy fin, rosy side, shiner.
Names are hard.
Notice this guy, he doesn't look quite as surprised. He maybe looks a little more scared than the big-eyed chub. The scales behind his head on the top of his back are really tiny. He's got a spot at the base of the fin on his back. He's got some red in that fin on his back. That's called a dorsal fin. And his body's pretty narrow and long, and he's got a big mouth. He's got a lot to say.
all right. Well, I think that is probably a pretty good place and a pretty good animal for us to wrap up this extra special Endangered Species Day live stream, our Aquarium at Home live stream for the day. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us as we explore South Chickamauga Creek and just appreciate just a little bit of just a very tiny sliver, really, of the biodiversity, so the various species that you can find in the rivers and creeks of the Southeast. This is a very special place. Not all the species we saw today are endangered, but as Bernie and Shauna were kind enough to talk about, just because the fish doesn't have to be endangered does not mean that it cannot help us work with endangered species. So it's all relevant, it's all tied together, it's all special. You two are both special people.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.
So thank you to those of you again who have watched with us. To those of you who donated, that money is very, very much appreciated. That will go towards the excellent cause of supporting our emergency operations fund. We hope that you learned something today, that you got just a little bit of a window into the amazing wildlife that surrounds you and gained maybe a bit of an appreciation and an interest in caring for it and safeguarding it, just like the people who are on the front lines like Bernie here and like Shauna. So, and finally, thank you to both of you for taking the time to lend us your expertise and your time and give people a bit of a chance to get outside of their own homes for a change.
It was our pleasure. This is the reason I got into this profession, is doing field work, and to everyone.
Thank you, guys. We got to get out of our houses today too, so we very much appreciate it.
All right, well, look for another Aquarium at Home live stream on Monday at the usual time, which is 1 p.m. We really appreciate your digital attendance for these. We love that we're able to, that you're making use of them, however you're making use of them, even if it's just having it on in the background. It's all serving the common purpose of much needed distraction and entertainment at a time when I think we all could use it. So have a wonderful weekend. We will see you on Monday, and happy endangered species.